Welcome back to The Heat. We're talking about the science and controversy around genetically engineered foods. Joining us now from New Delhi is Vandana Shiva, an environmentalist and anti-GMO activist. Thanks for joining us. We have heard a great deal. This debate has been going on for some time around GMO foods. There are activists like yourself who are opposed to GMO foods, and of course the industry has been pushing back as well. But let me ask you first, why are you opposed to genetically modified foods?
I am critical of the blind and irresponsible deployment of a technology for which there are international laws like the Biosafety Protocol, and I was a member of the United Nations Environment Programme expert group to draft the framework of that international treaty. Governments of the world would not have written a treaty if the safety issues around GMOs did not exist. Countries have national laws. The issue of safety is at the heart of the GMO debate, and the issue of safety has three dimensions. What does a GMO do to biodiversity, which is why the Biodiversity Protocol, the Biosafety Protocol is part of the Convention on Biological Diversity of the United Nations. What does it do to the environment, to the soil, to the pollinators? What does it do to health? And most importantly, what does it do to the socio-economic status of farmers? Most farmers of the world are small farmers. We have seen what GMOs have done to the rising costs of seed, because there's only one reason GMOs are deployed: in order to take patent monopolies. I was at a meeting in 1987 where the old chemical industry articulated their future plan of taking royalties from seed through ownership of seed, and that is done through genetic engineering. There are only two applications in all of these 20 years of commercialization: BT crops, herbicide-tolerant crops. Are they doing the jobs they were supposed to do? One was supposed to control pests. It has created new pests and resistance in the target pests like the bollworm. Herbicide-tolerant crops like Roundup Ready soya and corn have led to emergence of superweeds in the farms of the United States. A technology is a tool. A tool must be assessed for its safety on the one hand and its efficacy on the other.
All right, let's look at this from the industry's point of view, man. You've got companies, a major player like Monsanto, which says that these seeds promote food sustainability, it ensures food security, and in many instances there's better nutrients, there's more nutrients in the food. And look, that has been embraced by some really big countries. You know, the two most populous countries in the world, China and India, have embraced that. What's wrong with that?
No, that's not at all true. The only crop that exists in India is a non-food crop, BT cotton. That was introduced into India illegally, I must specify, in 1998 by Monsanto. I had to take them to court, and I filed a case in our Indian Supreme Court on the 6th of January 1999. That is why the introduction of the GMO cotton was stalled at the commercial level. No GMO food crop has been approved. There's a moratorium on the BT eggplant after a series of public hearings. There have been two attempts by removing environment ministers and pushing through the GMOs with the last government, which was the United Progressive Alliance, the new government, but they have been stalled. There's a Supreme Court case, 15th of September, the hearings will come up, where the technical expert committee of the Supreme Court has said there is a need for a moratorium for 10 years on only one category of crops, the BT crops. There should be no release of GMOs, of which we are a center of diversity. And there's no place for herbicide-tolerant crops. As far as China goes, they have just made certain trials illegal. A scientist who was carrying out GMO BT rice trials in a university has been put into jail. The Chinese military rations do not get GMO food. So we are talking about most of the world actually not having GMOs. And if they do, I have witnessed in my last 30 years the manipulation, the bribing, the corruption.
Okay.
If it was such a good product, they would not need to hide the ingredients and fight the labeling laws that have been democratically put in place, like by the states of Vermont. Why are they scared? They're scared because they know real risks. They know because of the risks, with labeling, they'll be able to track down when disease epidemics will grow.
Okay, as you point out,
GMOs don't kill you instantly. They damage your intestine. That research has been shown. They do aggravate instability of your organs. And all that the industry has in its hands is go after the independent and government scientists who have been called by government to do this research, like Arpat Putsai, who was asked by the UK government, and they hounded him. Seralini, they even got the editor of a journal changed to get his paper retracted, and he had to republish. If they are so intolerant of science, how can they pretend they are promoting science?
All right, let me ask you this. You did mention, that some states here in the United States are legislating against GMOs, but what about the NGO campaign, the campaign that you are a part of? How successful is that?
No, they're not legislating against GMOs. All they're saying is put a label so the consumer has the right to know what they're eating and has a right to choose. In the US, the debate is only about labeling, not about banning. It's in Europe that the debate is about banning. It's in the third world that the debate is about banning. But in the US, it's a very minimal requirement of democracy. Can I please know what I'm eating? And can I please choose what I want to eat?
Okay.
That democratic right
Tell me about
to citizens of the United States.
All right, tell me about the non-governmental campaign against GMOs, the campaign that you are involved in, for instance. I mean, how big is it? How successful is it? Where is it going right now?
Well, I think it's very successful. I mentioned the meeting in 1987, where I heard the industry lay out their plans of intellectual property rights. I'm not insinuating that they have a design. They said it. Monsanto went on record in 95 to say in getting the intellectual property rights agreement of WTO, they were the patient, diagnostician, and physician all in one. It was said in a conference in Washington, D.C. So we are talking about a clear declaration that patents are the objectives, GMOs are the root. At that point, they talked about the fact that by the year 2000, all crops will be GMO, all over the world. What do we have in these 20 years? 4 crops: corn, soya, cotton, canola. 2 traits, BT and herbicide tolerant. A minority of countries, not the majority of countries. That is the success of the movement. And I wouldn't call it the anti-GM movement. I would call it the movement for having a right to food, a right to safe food. It's a movement for producing food sustainably and ecologically. And that movement is growing. That movement is exploding, which is why they have to now deploy a PR machinery. PR has never worked.
Vandana Shiva.
The issues at stake are the fundamental freedoms of humanity.
Ms. Shiva, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. So where does the scientific community stand on genetically modified food? We'll get that perspective up next on The Heat. Stay with us.